Robert Plank Show, episode 28, Copycat Marketing. It's how business is done. Robert Plank here from the Robert Plank Show at robertplankshow.com, where we talk about building a business, making a living online, earning money, and creating the lifestyle you deserve. And you know what happens is when we get on the internet, we try to make money, we try to monetize our passion, we do all these things, some work, some don't, when it's up to us to stick with what works and adjust with the things that don't, and take in the criticism, or be honest with ourselves about what doesn't work, but also have that thick skin, because you know what, as we're ramping up, getting started, there are going to be a lot of people out there who hold us back, whether they realize it or not, and basically sabotage us, and maybe even we sabotage ourselves. And I was just thinking a few minutes ago about something that's actually been a long time coming, and I've been wanting to talk about this for at least 10 years, and it's that early on, when I got started, I was so afraid of people stealing my stuff. And I'm not talking about, sharing products or, blindly ripping me off, but people taking my ideas. And I think that there are about a million things that scare the crap out of us and prevent us from doing those things we know we need to do, like putting up an opt-in page, sales letter, getting traffic, mailing our list, paying for ads, getting affiliates, all those things. And you know what? Let me just tell you right now that it's good to be copied. If you get copied, well, a couple things. First of all, most people don't realize they're copying you. The other thing is that if you're being copied, chances are you're doing something right. And let me just add one third thing on here, is that chances are you've done the copying quite a bit in your internet marketing career, and you didn't even freaking realize it, because that's just how it works. It's this thing called memes, or things that are mimetic. And I don't want to get too fancy, but like on the internet, you see these memes, like you see like these funny pictures, and it's usually the picture's the same, but they change the words. There's these things called memes that get passed on the internet, and they get copied and copied so many times that nobody even remembers where they started from. Well, that's how ideas happen. And what's happened is, I've known so many people, in my internet marketing career, where I told them something, even a phrase, or even just like some kind of concept, and a year later they themselves are presenting it, and they come across as if they thought of it, and that they tried all these things and they finally discovered this. And I have tons of ideas in my head, and I don't know if I thought of them or if someone else kind of planted the seed, but that's just how things work, and we can't be tiptoeing around and trying to be the only unique person on the internet. Because you know what happens? If you have the most original idea no one's ever thought of, well, then chances are it's something that people have thought of, but you don't see it around because they tried it and it's failed. So the best businesses that you're going to build, and the best money-making ideas, and the best websites, and the best products are going to be a result of combining things that already exist, or adding one little piece, or taking one little piece away, or maybe it's something that failed in the past, but now, for example, stuff like cell phones would have failed in the 60s and 70s because you don't have the infrastructure, but now they're a great idea. The other thing is that, an idea on its own is worthless. Just look at Netflix. Netflix is one of the coolest companies because they took this thing that you think wouldn't work, which is overnight mailing movies and let you keep the movie out as long as you want it, and then you send it back when you're done. And that only works because they would run these huge amounts of volume. But do you think that after Netflix came out that they were the only ones who did that? Well, of course not. People tried it. There was Gamefly, I think, tried that. There was Blockbuster Video tried their own, and we all know what happened to Blockbuster. They went bankrupt. So an idea on its own is not good enough. And I could cry over spilled milk myself. I was at the point where I could list all these things where, as far as I know, I created these software products, and maybe others had, ideas 10 years before me, 5 years before me that I'd never heard of, but I was the first one to create quite a few pieces of software. For example, the first piece of software that ran ClickBank ads in AdSense-style blocks. And guess what that was? Combining two ideas that worked quite well. I was the first one, as far as I know, to create what's called a dime sale, which is this kind of thing where the more people buy from you, the higher your price rises by a few pennies every time. And was that 100% out of the blue original idea? Well, no, that came from the idea of this dynamic pricing, where some people would create things where every couple of seconds, your price would increase by a tenth of a penny. And I thought, well, what if it increased based on number of sales and instead of just the time? The idea of using WordPress as a sales letter. When I came out with this one years and years ago, one plugin like this already existed and wasn't very good, and I took so many improvements on it that the finished result was absolutely completely different than the original. And it had all these things like plug and play headlines and swipe files, and we've now improved that to this day. Things like this whole idea of drip. As far as I know, my business partner Lance Tamashiro was the first person to use the term drip as far as, well, dripping out your content. The way that we close on webinars, the way that we create webinar packages, it's like you try all these different things and only a few of them work. And so there's only, in so many situations, there's only 4 or 5 ways that a certain thing can work. Like making a sales letter, making a video, making a webinar pitch. So it's fine if you get copied. I mean, I've been copied so closely where someone actually once took my entire presentation and just presented it as themselves. I've been in mastermind groups where the majority of the people in that mastermind used my ideas to create their own unique and individual products, even though the whole point of the mastermind was so ideas didn't get out. And I mean, the head of the mastermind was the worst suspect here. He ripped off the most stuff, and it's fine, water under the bridge, and I'm not as upset about it now as I was back in the day, back when I first got started and I had this scarcity mindset. Now I have an abundance mindset. Now I have this idea, well, of a few things. First of all, Dan Kennedy has this saying that pioneers get arrows in their back. So if you're the first one to invent something, create something, what's going to happen is you're going to have the toughest time, and everyone after you is going to see how well you did, and then duplicate it on their own, and they are going to have a much easier time at your expense. That's just how business is done. I mean, as far as the internet goes, my attitude is put out a bunch of things and see what works and what doesn't, because you can't ever plan for something to be a big hit. You just can't. The marketplace has to tell you, and then you continue on the path that has worked for you. Yannick Silver is he's always been a huge name in marketing. He trademarked this term called a name squeeze page. So years ago, the idea of having a web page with nothing to do on it other than ask for a name and email address was revolutionary, huge. And he thought, I'm going to trademark the name of this so that no one else can use it without naming me. And you know what happened? Everyone else called it the squeeze page, not just a name squeeze page. So we all copy whether we realize it or not. And in fact, the title of today's podcast is a blatant ripoff of my good friend Steven Schwartzman's blog post from 6 or 7 years ago. I think he went to like Disneyland or something and saw that, well, all the shops are laid out the same. And I mean, if you go to Target and Walmart, there's differences, but they're kind of laid out in similar ways. If you drive through the drive-thru of McDonald's or Burger King, do you think they came up with the idea of having a number system or a certain sequence on their own? Of course not. One of them had something that worked. They had a good model. Someone else copied them, and then the person that was copied absorbed the changes of the other, and there was this back and forth until like the whole marketplace kind of worked out. So it's better to be basically a scientist observing what works and what doesn't, as opposed to a trailblazer. And I used to get bent out of shape. When I put out that Click Sensor product, the ClickBank and AdSense thing, and well, basically, first of all, one guy blackmailed me because he told me he had some idea 4 years ago, even though I'd never heard of him, and he never told me, so how was I supposed to be dang psychic and think of these things? Next thing is, have you heard of this guy Steve Jobs? Well, Steve Jobs invented, Apple computer and all this good stuff, and they invented like a mouse moving type of dealio where you could have things on a screen, icons, and you point to stuff. And did Steve Jobs think of that? Well, heck no. Xerox thought of that, and the big famous story is that then Bill Gates made something else, and Steve Jobs got all butthurt, even though Bill Gates ripped off the same guy Steve Jobs did. And Bill Gates said something like, well, it's not that you're upset that I broke into your house and stole from you. It's that we both broke into the same house, and when you broke in, you found that I don't already stole the TV. So it's this thing of we all copy each other, and ideas on their own are worthless, but what is going to make you more money are these things like building a list, being a better marketer, and when people come out there and they see something that you have that's selling well, and they make their own version or their own knockoff of it, well, it's up to you to do one of a few things. Is usually they'll actually knock you off better than you did. So in fact, they are doing market research for you, and you look at what pieces of you or of your product or of your marketing that they kind of cloned, and you might say, well, geez, because they did it from an outsider's point of view, I like it a lot better how they positioned that hook, or how they presented this or that, and so it's up to us to observe the changes. So there are two ways to basically copy someone: the good way and the bad way. And when you get copied, and both things will happen, you will copy someone whether you realize it or not. I mean, I could go on and on about people who I taught them things and they took notes on it and forgot they took the notes, came back 6 months later and said, whoa, I'm a genius. Look at all the stuff I wrote. I'm going to make a presentation. Next thing you know, they made a presentation, gets very, very, very similar to what I said. That's okay. That's how the marketplace works. Two ways to copy people and two ways to react to you being copied by others. Now, the wrong way to basically copy is the superficial copy. And I mean by that is if someone sees, for example, our backup creator plugin, that's been knocked off at least 10 times. Someone sees it and they might see, whoa, cool, he's got this sales letter, he's got this video, he's got this little icon, and they'll copy the fun stuff. They'll copy the pizzazz or like the flashiness, and not what makes it special. And not like how it's simple, or not how it's a one-button solution, or not how it's really fast. So they'll copy, the colors on the sales letter, the font on the web page, and not the things that actually matter. And this is what makes me laugh the most, because if I put out, let's say, like a webinar course about how we run a webinar class, how we use webinars for pitches, and someone makes a knockoff, and they focus on how to record your screen. And they thought they were making an exact copy, but there's no such thing as an exact copy when you look at someone's product and make your own. And so that's the wrong way to do it, because, well, you'll end up copying the wrong things. And when that happens to me, I laugh at that, because it's like, I can tell that you tried to make something similar to me, but we're not even a comparison. A better way are small improvements. And by that, I mean that, well, if I had my webinar course and someone made their own, and whether it was, almost the same or drastically different, I would look at, well, what can I take from this? What do they show that I don't? What's the hole in my system that they are then doing? So what if someone knocks off my webinar course and they show all this cool stuff on how to get traffic to a webinar, how to fill up a webinar every time, stuff like that? I can say, well, I can now look at what they did and, put my feelings aside and, not get all butthurt because our ideas are not original. Our subconscious stole them from other people, and for all I know, this person subconsciously stole my course to make their own and didn't even realize it. So I say, well, maybe I can just take this one improvement, just this one piece, and then absorb it into the next version of my course, and we kind of play this arms race. We both play catch up. One person does one thing, one person does the next thing, and maybe your way to outmarket them is because you are simpler, or you are faster, or you are easy to use, or you get to the result faster. It's not necessarily about extra features or about bells and whistles. So two ways to subconsciously copy is superficially, which is where you're trying to copy everything at once. You copy the wrong things, which is bad. But instead, you look at, well, what's the slight edge that they now have on me that I can go there and put right back into my dang product? Now, two ways to react to being copied is, first, you could freak out and panic and go through this emotional roller coaster of, well, maybe I should just give up. Maybe I should just shut my stuff down, because that way, no one can copy me. Or going out and, complaining and bitching to everyone who will listen and saying the same thing, and just getting worked up. I'm going to tell you right now that you will copy and you will get copied, so it's better to be prepared for it. So when it happens, not if, but when it happens, well, it might mean that you've been a little complacent in your business and your marketing for a while. So you have this really good idea, you thought, I'm such a genius, you put it out there, made the product, whatever that is, if it's software or a book, video, sales letter, autoresponder sequence, traffic, put it out there, let it sit for 6 months, a year, 2 years, but then someone new comes across the market and runs circles around you and eats your lunch, and now everyone's comparing you to them. Well, now it's time to basically go back into battle again. And I mean, the internet and marketing is such this weird thing of that. Well, you do have competitors, you do have allies, you do have enemies, and I mean, if you don't treat it that way, that where if you stop, then you're going to be forgotten, and if you're not growing, you're dying, then there's no, then you're going to be left behind. So you could either freak out and panic and let yourself go deeper and deeper into complacency and why the heck do I do anything, and why did I even get in this position in the first place, or you can be more strategic about it and decide on a couple things. Decide, well, am I going to, okay, first of all, don't ever call them out, and you're unique, you're special, you don't want to compare you to them, but you say, well, is there something of mine that they have done better that I can then absorb, or is there something of mine that I can see, well, I'm glad I didn't go down that path. And for us, I'm thinking about Paper Template, I'm thinking about our Backup Creator plugin where people make knockoff WordPress sales letters or backup cloners for WordPress. And they go down the rabbit hole of adding in all these bells and whistles and buttons, and they actually say they do us a huge favor in that when we get requests for features for WordPress multi-site or for this button or for that button, I almost would have done it. But then it's like, because someone made a bad copy of what we made, I can see the possibilities. I can see, well, if I was going to implement that feature, if I was going to add in that extra training course, I can see how that would have ended up. Example, have you heard, check out a site, it's not my site or anything like that, it's called managewp.com, MANAGEWP.com. It's a tool for managing multiple WordPress sites at once. And a lot of people thought that they were pretty groundbreaking in that, well, you could just pick and choose all these features you wanted. The main core of it is free, but if you want this scheduling thing, it's $30. If you want this other module, it's $30. If you ever used the membership plugin in the past called A Member, it's the same way. Where if you want the bare bones, it's really cheap or it's free, but if you want to run an autoresponder with your membership site, it's $30. If you want to take payments of your site, it's $30. And so I almost went down that path. I almost went down the path of putting out a product where there's almost no features, and then just to add on what you want, it's this. And I'm so glad I didn't go down that path, because I see how it's implemented, and I'm like, that's the most confusing checkout process I've ever seen. But if we didn't have those other possibilities to look at, and you look at different sites and different competitors as different avenues you could take, as opposed to people who are like copying every single last thing you do, they're different things you could do. You look at any kind of web page, any kind of video, any kind of webinar pitch, any kind of sales letter or anything, it's better to look at it from a point of view of, well, is this something that I could implement myself? And, why did they add in that price drop? Or why did they make the price look that certain way? Or why did they add in these certain pictures at this point? And if I were to use it in my business, would that help me or would that hurt me? So one thing that is really going to help you is to, be a bigger person, be a better person, and have what we call an abundance mindset, not a scarcity mindset. Are you going to be copied? Answer is yes. Are you going to copy someone? Answer is yes, and you've probably done it tons of times this month, this year, and you didn't even freaking realize it. But you know what that means? It means that you found things that work, and it's up to you, and it's definitely a judgment call and how different that you want to make things. And obviously, I don't recommend in any way violating trademark, copyright, any of that stuff, but you can't copyright ideas. And if someone out there has a course on how to make an affiliate program, how to run Google AdWords, how to play guitar, you don't want to ignore your competitors, and you don't even want to hate your competitors. Go there and buy their courses, see what they have, what they've left out, what hole they've left in the marketplace for you, put out your stuff, and when you get copied, go ahead and absorb the changes. This has been Robert Plank from makeaproduct.com. You can check me out right now at robertplank.com. And when you're there, let me know, comment on the blog, tell me what you thought of today's podcast episode 28, Copycat Marketing. It's how business it's done. My name is Robert Plank, and thank you.